Andrew Tucker, and welcome to Andrew Tucker World. What's going on, all my great people? What's going on, all my boxing fans? I'm gonna try to make this a quick video, right? I had some friends come to me, right, regarding the Terence Bud Crawford versus Canelo Alvarez fight, right? So they came to me. And they was like, Andrew Tucker, what's up with all these certain boxing outlets or boxing channels coming at Crawford like that? Do they know how great he is? Like, Canelo is a great fighter, one of the best fighters in the history of the sport, along with Terence Bud Crawford. But is they not forgetting that this man one of the best, arguably one of the best pound for pound fighters, number one, or at least top three, or whatever category you put him in, from 1 to 2 to 3 to 3 to 2 to 1. Pound for pound fighters in the world. Do they not understand that he's undefeated, that he's never lost a fight, so he don't know how to lose? Like, they was like, Canelo is a great fighter, and he's dangerous, and he's tough, and he's one of the best Mexican fighters in the history of the sport. And I'm talking about one of the kings of boxing today, as far as in terms of accomplishments, as far as the accolades, and when it comes to star power and attraction. So I was like, yeah, that's true, man. Canelo is my guy, just like Terence Bud Crawford is my guy. These are two great fighters, very disciplined. They work hard in the gym. They prepare for fights. When they prepare, preparation for a fight, as far as training for a fight, they go all in. Like, these two guys, like, they remind me of fighters. You talk about fighters that train extremely hard, but well disciplined at the same time. Very disciplined and very dedicated, 100% dedicated to their craft. Or at least you can say 85% dedicated to their craft. Like, when I think of like fighters like Terence Bud Crawford, Canelo Alvarez, fighters like Vasily Lomachenko, I hear maybe retiring, Alexander Usyk, guys like Israel Madrimov, guys like Ja Opataya, you have guys that train extremely hard, 100% dedicated to their craft. Inoue Inoue, the Monster Inoue. You got guys that train extremely hard to be great, especially the undefeated fighters, the ones that's undefeated. Whether a lot of people like to take a while, like a lot of people like to discredit certain fighters. It don't have nothing to do with people may think it has something to do with, like, racism. They don't want to see a certain fighter, a particular fighter, achieve greatness, or see a certain nationality of a culture of fighter leading the sport. Because Terence Crawford is one of those leaders. Anthony Joshua, as far as star power, accolades too, but as far as star power, is leading the sport as far as in terms of accolades and star power and attraction. As far as African American heavyweight, you know what I'm saying? And then you have fighters like Tyson Fury, star attraction, accolades. A fighter like Deontay Wilder, star attraction, the knockout artist. You have certain fighters that's gonna draw, the crowd, a star attraction, popularity, superstars, into megastars, Tank Davis of the world, things of that nature. You got the Devin Haney's that's starting to still climb up the ladder. Shakur Stevenson still, Keyshawn Davis still climbing up the ladder. Teofimo Lopez still climbing up that ladder. But a lot of within the certain guys like a Devin Haney and Teo, as far as accolades. And then as far as now, along with the accolades, as far as being the future of boxing, now the faces of boxing as far as attraction, and then as far as a superstar status, and then as far as being megastar based on their performances, how they dominate caliber elite level opponents, or step up and challenge themselves and be great with great performances, winning or losing. And so I was like, it's a lot of favoritism in the sport of boxing. It's a lot of a cultural thing, a cultural thing, a lineage thing, a heritage thing, not a heritage, but a ethnicity thing, a culture thing, and within the certain ethnic group. And there's nothing wrong with that, protecting your, not protecting, but loving and having respect for a fighter that's your nationality, or that's within your culture. There's nothing wrong with that. I tend to be different, and it's like I can never see it. A lot of people, I only can see it my way, in the way of a boxing scientist and a boxing analyst. So if I say, they are sleeping on Canelo Alvarez, if they don't think that he's going to win against Canelo. Terence Bud Crawford, and they are sleeping on Terence Bud Crawford if they don't think he can win against Canelo Alvarez. He don't have those tangibles or those attributes or the skills or the fundamentals. He don't know how to lose. And so they look at certain fights and they be like Israel Madrimov, not knowing who the guy is. You got certain hardcore boxing fans that will cover certain fights and have been covering certain fights when it comes to decorated amateurs and people that went to the Olympics and participated in certain games surrounding that. Decorated amateurs, long records, coming to the professional rankings and dominate top tier fighters, right? So, people won't give like a Virgil Ortiz credit of fighting Israel Madrimov, but some people will, because some people actually knew who Israel Madrimov was and how he was decorated in the amateurs, and then the caliber opponents he faced thus far with only a certain amount of professional fighters, right? So he's already celebrated in other regions and other lands. Just because people in North America or America don't know who he is, but he comes over to the but he comes over to the territory and to these regions and to the areas, and then people know who he is by giving Terence Bud Crawford a very tough fight, which he lost by two rounds. Gave Terence Bud Crawford in a close fight, epic, entertaining to me, chess match war, technically sound matchup. Because I guess if you really are a real hardcore boxing fan that know when it comes to the fundamentals, the techniques and strategies fully in detail, you'll know that when you look at that fight, that was epic, because Terence Crawford was challenged moving up to somebody else's backyard at 154 pounds and being challenged by a very strong and big 154 pound. You know what I'm saying? In terms of muscularity, as far as the nice physique and structure, you can see Crawford filled in perfectly with no fat, with no fluff, and made the weight perfect. Even though his walk around weight always be normally like 170, 160. And a lot of fighters like Terence, like Earl Spence Jr. and Virgil Ortiz can tell you the same thing. Them guys was never natural 147 pounders. Them guys are not really natural 154 pounders. Terence Bud Crawford and like a Earl Spence Jr., a Virgil Ortiz, or a Josh Taylor, or like a natural 160 pounders. Like Sean Porter was fighting at 54, like back in the amateurs, fight guys like Alexander Usyk. You know what I'm saying? You had like Keith Thurman fighting the likes of, Demetrius Andre back in the amateurs at 54 or something like that. But all them guys are natural. All them guys can make 160, 165, 168. They walk around weight 170, 180. Miss me with the foolishness, too small. Because if you really knew boxing, you'll know that. And then how they can add on the weight and get accustomed to the weight. Sometimes it's not always the experience of within caliber opponents, because some fighters in the history of sport with certain elite level skills, advanced skills, went up to weight and dominated the best guy at that weight. He ain't need a couple of fights. So it depends on the fighter in the terms of the way they prepare in the boxing gym in preparation for a fight, how they train and how they get accustomed and adjusted within certain weights, because people go up and down and still can kill somebody. Somebody 130 pounds can fold a champion not inside, the bright lights, is contracted to fight under the bright lights, and can be a dude 180 pounds and get folded by a 125 pounder, and 185 pounder, 180 pounder is basically a contracted fighter with 20-0 or something like that. And while this guy just walks in the gym at 130, self-taught, and destroy this guy that's 180 pounds. So never judge a book by its cover. But I think it's a great fight between Terence Bud Crawford. I look at several, like two different ways that as far as the advantages coming from Terence Bud Crawford, or how he can separate and slightly dominate to win. So Turki Alalshikh knows what he sees. I think he's a man that really knows this sport. I give it to him. He ain't about the money. I think he knows the sport, and I can see what he sees, and what he sees is basically what I see. And got nothing to do with no money and no favoritism. I think he just see a certain elite level monster that is the weight ain't gonna be no problem. It's just the skills and the power that they sleeping on, but it's not knowing that this dude is tussling with heavyweights. So it's nothing for him to tussle with a natural 160 pounder, 168 pounder that can get up to 75 or even 200 pounds himself. So it ain't gonna be nothing for Terence Bud Crawford as a history of a strong man that's tussling with weights just like Canelo. They both strong, and so don't be surprised Canelo get pushed back like a Triple G pushed him back from a Terence Bud Crawford. I'm not impressed with people saying it's not a great fight. This is a legacy defining fight. This is a massive fight in the history of the sport of boxing. Teach his own.